City Council meeting for Thursday, August 31st, 2023. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call.
Kevin Kadada.
Here.
Tim Rude.
Here.
Cindy Fuhr.
Here.
And Scott Palava.
Here.
Okay, tonight's agenda goes to 10Q. Additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
Mayor, one correction to the agenda. Agenda item 10C. The amount of the insurance premium is $126,905.
Is Mr. Fincher going to be here?
He is not. He called and said he was unable to make it this evening. He wasn't feeling well.
Okay.
I move we approve the agenda with the amended item.
Motion by Councilman Karada.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Approval of minutes. Consider approval of the minutes from the August 10th, 2022 regular meeting and the August 14th, 2023 special meeting. Any additions, deletions, or corrections to the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion by Councilman Palava.
Second?
Second by Councilperson Fuhr. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. A couple of public hearings tonight. So I'll call to order the first public hearing. There's ordinance 2023-318, an ordinance prohibiting cannabis in public and private places. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This public hearing was approved to be scheduled at the August 10th meeting. Since then, we've published and posted the public hearing notice. One comment was received from a resident since it was published, just stating that they didn't feel that the city should be the use of cannabis was approved by the state legislature, and the city should not regulate it any further than what the state legislature has approved. With the state legislature approving and the governor signing into law the legal use of cannabis effective August 1st, the city needs to determine to what extent, if any, cannabis use in Lonsdale will be regulated. Staff has reviewed the new law, definitions, and sample ordinance on possession, use, and sale. The council should discuss the use of cannabis. That's the main thing for tonight. Since we have Lonsdale liquor, the sale of infused beverages, and then starting in January of 25, regulating the sale of cannabis. Cities can regulate where cannabis cannot be used. If an ordinance is not adopted, cannabis can be used essentially anywhere outside in the city. The proposed ordinance regulates the use of cannabis. As proposed, the ordinance prohibits the use of cannabis in the following locations: public property and in a public place. The definition of a public place is property that is generally open to or accessible by the public, except on those premises licensed by the state of Minnesota to permit on-site consumption. Property is property, real and personal, owned by the city, managed and controlled, also by the city, including but not limited to city buildings and all land thereon, parking lots, parks, trails, sidewalks, city right-of-way, which consists of both the traveled portion, the street, and the abutting boulevard. On average, the city's right-of-way extends 10 feet past the back of the curb. Any city real property, motor vehicles, city equipment, and the like. There's also definitions on the cannabis flower, cannabis product, hemp-derived consumer products, low-potency hemp edibles. As far as the use of cannabis, when we were discussing it at the staff level and drafting the proposed ordinance, we considered public safety, enforcement, and the smell of smoking cannabis. In regards to enforcement, concerns are there's no reliable test to determine impairment. Officers use the same training previously received. Search of a vehicle when smell is likely different. And then specific to enforcement, how or to what extent is it feasible to enforce the law? Escalation to use of force, smoking the cannabis flower versus gummies or edibles, vaping, or drinking an infused beverage. And then, as I said, not in the right of way. How is law enforcement going to determine where the property line is? One option would be just to regulate the travel portion of the right of way. I suppose it would be the street and the sidewalks. In discussions at the staff level and with others, the main concern seems to be the smell of cannabis when it's smoked, and just the perception of smoking at a park where there could be, young children, whatever, 5 to 10 years old playing at the park, and someone is smoking cannabis, the perception of that. The proposed ordinance as drafted, the proposed ordinance is drafted such that products such as vapes, gummies, and infused beverages would be allowed to be consumed anywhere. When we scheduled this public hearing at the council meeting earlier in the month, we did talk about the sale of beverages that contain Delta 8 and Delta 9. I have talked to our liquor store manager about researching, concerns of access, how it's stored. Is it cash? Is it use of the debit card? I know that's a big thing out west, where banks are hesitant to. I think they're becoming more reluctant to now, but initially they didn't want to deal with the federal government and basically, using money that was profited from cannabis in their banks, and how that would affect the law, since it's still a Schedule 1 narcotic, I believe. And then the sale of cannabis, the state of Minnesota is currently working on, I don't even believe they've established their Office of Cannabis Control, or whatever they're calling it, as of yet, that will be able to be sold beginning in 2025. So the city has next year to determine how we want to proceed with that, licensing and such. Other items to consider would be zoning. Where can cannabis be sold? Not only the retail, but potentially the manufacturing and growers. What type of restrictions? Would it be permitted, conditional use? And then licenses. Per the statute, one license for every 12,500 residents. And then it goes into, if the county has a license, the city can count that license as the one. And then obviously we're in the 1 to 24,999 population, so one license. So far the fiscal impact has been staff time and the cost of advertising the public hearing. Alternatives would be to not conduct the public hearing, but we already have. If the public hearing would not have been held, that would have resulted in no city imposed regulations. And then included with the staff report is the public hearing notice, proposed ordinance 2023-318, and then information from the League of Minnesota Cities presentation on cannabis. So, as I said, the intent of our ordinance is concerns on the smell and smoking it in public places in front of children. So our ordinance defines public places and public property, and then it prohibits any person from using the cannabis flower, cannabis products, or hemp-derived consumer products within public property or in a public place. The definitions were in the staff report. So basically, the cannabis flower would be any buds or leaves, stems, I think is included in the definition. Cannabis does not include edibles and hemp products. And then hemp-derived hemp-derived consumer products do not include edibles or, again, hemp-related products. So the intent of our ordinance is strictly smoking it, the smell of the smoke, and not doing it in front of children. The intent is not to prohibit businesses from selling infused drinks or people smoking it on private property, strictly city property and the smell.
Obviously, this is a public hearing, so if anybody in the audience cares to speak, now would be your opportunity. We'd ask that you come forward if you can and state your name and your comment. A good time to start.
My name's Charlie Peter Fessel, and just looking at that ordinance, I've never used it, no ambition to ever use it. But if you guys are so concerned about in front of kids, why aren't you doing the same thing with cigarettes, vapes, and all of that? As someone who does foster care, I have kids in and out of my home. I'd be more concerned about the fruity smell of vapes that are at the parks all the time than of a pungent odor of what marijuana puts off. I mean, you guys are trying to limit people, but to me, smoking and vaping is a bigger problem in our youth than marijuana is. Hands down, bar none. Marijuana has been proved to be safer already. I mean, it doesn't make sense that you guys are trying to do this for one, and the real problem, not do anything about.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else care to speak? Give you the opportunity.
My name is Elizabeth Leiden, and my concern is actually for people who don't own homes. As someone who is a renter myself, I understand that after the Clean Air Act went into effect, most apartment buildings do not allow any smoking anywhere, whether it's in your own unit, in common rooms. Oftentimes, you also cannot smoke in any sort of parking lot. It needs to be a certain distance from the building, and especially if you have a small building, it can be very difficult to find a location that's that distance away if you want to actually follow the law. And my concern is that especially as a town that has a lot of younger people, millennials and Gen X, every figure that I can find says that younger people are drinking less alcohol, but they are smoking more marijuana. And I feel like as a city, we need to be willing to adapt to the people in our town. And so my proposal would potentially be for you to reject this current ordinance and consider a way to make it so that everyone in our community would be able to consume this now legal product in some way, shape, or form, whether that is ensuring that, it can't be in a park, or you need to ensure that a reasonable person would not think that a child would be around. If it's 9 p.m. and you want to go for a walk down the sidewalk and smoke, there's a reasonable assumption that there's not going to be children around to worry about. And so that would be my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else care to speak? Last call.
Move to close this public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
and by Councilperson Fuhrer. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This public hearing is closed. Call to order our second public hearing on ordinance 2023-319, an ordinance authorizing background checks for applicants for city employment.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. This one is a lot less controversial. Essentially, in working with the chief of police on some recent hires, we need to adopt an ordinance authorizing the Lonsdale Police Department to access the BCA's computerized system for non-criminal activity, which would be background checks. Currently, our background check process needs to be improved. And one way to do that would be to do a much more thorough background investigation. Also talk with, maybe not to the extent of a background for a police officer, but definitely somewhere between where we are and that. And the first step would be to authorize the PD to have access for non-criminal activities to the BCA's criminal or computerized system. So, if not approved, we would have to continue doing the same background check that we do now, which is pretty minimal.
Is there any written comments?
No written or verbal comments, no.
Okay. This too is a public hearing, so it's open to comment. Anybody care to speak, now would be your opportunity. Anybody?
I move we close this public hearing.
Motion by Councilman Karada,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fielder. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This public hearing is closed. On to presentation of citizen petitions and comments. Comments limited to 2 minutes. So if you're not on the agenda tonight, now is your opportunity to speak. Okay, on to the consent agenda. There's 4 items tonight: the monthly bills, the treasurer's report, the board and commission minutes, and consider approval to accept Piper Nelson's letter of resignation as part-time liquor store clerk. Anybody like any of those items pulled for discussion?
Move to approve the consent agenda?
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fielder. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There's no old business, on to new business. Presentation of a West Central Sanitation Good Neighbor Recycling Team Check to TCU High School baseball team for recycling 31.07 tons of cardboard/mixed paper. Mike Rhodes, West Central Sanitation. Welcome, good sir.
Good to see you guys again.
Do you want to step over to the podium with them?
Somebody from the baseball team here?
No, no one could make it, so I'm just gonna present it and
Okay.
give it to one of you guys if you want it.
Hey.
I don't think I can put your name on it, but. Yeah, just like, he said, I'm here to present a check for $466.05 to the TCU, baseball team. We enjoy coming up here to service you guys, and, we hope that we're doing a good job. I've been spending a lot of time up here actually, and we finally got a couple guys back, so I'm not gonna be here as much, so. But, yeah, it's always a pleasure doing this. I actually like coming up here to do these things, and, I'm from a little town in Ohio, so this place reminds me of my hometown, so.
Yeah, it's a great program, actually.
Yeah, it's cool. I seen these guys at the Twin Stadium, this TCU baseball team on Tuesday night. They were on the field, so I was
Oh,
kind of
really?
well, it was like it was 11U or something like that. So
Sure,
yeah, it's kinda
sure.
neat. So anyways, yeah, appreciate you guys. And who wants it?
You can give it to me.
I can get it to Mark. Perfect.
Well, thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Program, appreciate it very much.
You too.
Consider approval of application for payment number 21, the final, for the new police facility. Melissa Stein, whoa. Welcome. You made it through the duration of the project.
We have. It's been a while since I've been here. But yeah, this is a bittersweet moment. I'm sure you guys are all very excited, and the chief is probably loving his new facility compared to what you were in. But yeah, so this is the final pay app, which is pretty exciting. So if you guys were there when I was handing off all the as-built drawings, closeout documents, so those are your warranties, your operation maintenance manuals, that sort of thing. And then we have our final warranty walkthrough next week. So that doesn't mean that if anything does come up, that we won't be here to help you guys out if that does, but it's kind of the ending, if you will.
Is there any outstanding issues at all, or everything's all good?
I haven't heard anything, but maybe the chief has a laundry list and we'll know more on Wednesday next week. I don't know. I'm hoping that's not the case.
We haven't heard anything, so that's a good sign.
So, yeah.
So we're good, you know, like we've talked the whole duration, you know, all's well that ends well. and
Yes,
It turned out to be a very beautiful facility.
it did. Yeah,
We're actually fortunate to have it in a town of our size.
yeah. A lot of hard work went into that, and you guys waited a very long time during construction and not during construction, but we made it through, and you are absolutely correct. It's a beautiful facility, and I'm hoping that it lasts you guys for, 50 years plus, if not more, so.
Thank you for all your work, and Councilman Palava volunteered a lot of time, and Mr. Erickson was heavily involved, along with the chief, so thank you all.
Yes.
Really terrific project. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
For all your work.
Thank you, guys.
We'll have to find something else to build now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm sure Joel's like that. Can we not?
Any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Yes, well, thank
Thank
you
you.
guys.
So this is the final pay request for the, to key contractors for 108,766.28. Make that motion.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Fuhr. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Well, have a good night, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, consider approval of the city's 2023/24 property casualty insurance premium in the amount of $126,905. Mr. Erickson.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Unfortunately, our insurance agent, Pete Fleechik, was unable to make it today. He called today and said he wasn't feeling well. Very similar to prior years. All properties are included. We have additional covered loss and damages, water, supplemental flood coverage, crime, municipal liability, which includes medical and related expenses, all our vehicles liability, physical damage, the Petro Fund, we've got bonds for finance, and the Firemen's Relief Association. Included in our policy is equipment breakdown. We use that quite a bit. Our liquor liability insurance for Lonsdale Liquor, and then first party cybersecurity coverage. The cost breakdown for the policy: property insurance is just over $60,000. Mobile property just under $4,000. Municipal liability, which is employment expenditures, land use, police, and then sewer, errors and omissions. 5516, 9213, 4703. Police is 14,043, and then sewer errors and omissions just under 4,300. Our auto liability is 6414. Physical liability for vehicles 8334. Our bond for finance 483. Equipment breakdown premium 5,094. Our liquor liability insurance is just under $2,500. And then first party cybersecurity 1941. And then garage keepers 254 for the total of 126,905. It does represent over a 16% increase compared to the policy for 22 and 23. It is a budgeted expense in this year's budget. And then included with the staff report is an email that we received from the league, kind of summarizing the overall increase in the premium, that percentage, the comparisons, 23 to last year and that change, and then just reason for the increase, annual inflation, and then rate changes. We've got more households, we've got more sewer connections for like our sewer errors and omissions, things like that. Auto liability and damage, those premiums are up based on just our increase in our experience, modification factor, and a 5% rate increase. And then our liquor liability premiums up due to increased sales from 1.95 to 2.3 million. So Quick review of the policy and the costs associated with it. As staff, we did go through and verify all of our vehicles, that we have all our properties covered. So we are good to go with both of those. So we're confident that we have coverage on everything that the city owns.
What were the rates last year? Were they close to that
For
overall?
It looks like for
Yeah.
23,
Yep.
126,905.
it was where does it show the total there?
Or no,
108.
that's in oh yeah, that's the 1A, okay.
108.
I was
so-
thinking that this is the one we're doing 23 to 24, okay, sorry.
And
Yeah, 108,9.
about 16,000
Have you had?
or 18,000, excuse me.
Pretty good success with the claims, like at Public Works, with any infrastructure or any of that kind of stuff?
I've had great success. Pete's been fantastic to work with, as well as the league. Had a little back and forth with this dump truck that the hoist broke on, but as of today, we got that figured out.
Okay.
But Pete, he's always there, he answers the phone call and gets it going.
Good. Very good to know.
And we have appropriate coverage on the police station, both new and old?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not just us, I mean, insurance as a whole is
Yep.
going up with all the natural stuff, you know, natural disasters or whatever. We're reviewing that on a whole bunch of different levels, and this is right in line.
I move we approve the property and casualty insurance premium for 23-24 for 126,905.
Motion by Councilperson Fier.
Second.
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of ordinance 2023-318 on ordinance prohibiting cannabis in public and private places. Mr.
All right, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. While the public hearing was held earlier in the meeting, staff gave the report and reason for and what's included in the ordinance. We had two residents speak up, I guess not in support or recommending changes to what is being proposed. I guess at this time, it's really time for the council to decide how we want to or how you guys want to proceed. Really, it's do nothing and it's legal, prohibited as proposed in the ordinance, or take into account public comment and bring back a revised ordinance at a upcoming meeting.
The new ordinance or the proposed ordinance, does that affect any of our existing businesses?
It does not. It is strictly regulating public property and public places.
It was brought up by one resident for the rentals. How is that now, the ordinance in that? How does that read? Per their
I
building,
guess-
correct? I mean, per.
I guess really it would be up to their,
The owner of
what's
that
in
building.
their lease agreement,
Right.
if it's legal or not. I mean, it is private property, so
Right.
this ordinance does not regulate that.
Correct.
Whatever is, in their lease would.
Right. That's what I assumed.
Man, I think the frustration is just general overall, how this comes out from the state, everything's so loose and, I mean, they don't even have their cabinet positions filled, their office filled, and all these cities now are wrestling with such a big issue. It's pretty hard to, I mean, I think generally, we're pretty open-minded city council, but this is pretty loose to not do anything,
What's the current regulations on tobacco usage in public places, including parks and whatnot?
I believe that you can use tobacco products in our parks.
Okay.
I know in the early 2000s, there was a push to make parks tobacco-free, and quite a few cities at the time did do that. And that was you know, cigarettes, chew. I suppose those would be the main tobacco products.
What about alcohol?
We allow alcohol at our parks. I think just no glass.
I know that there's regulations for those that are selling THC and Delta and all that stuff as far as proximity to schools and daycares and stuff like that. Am I correct in that?
We do not have any regulations on that right now.
We don't.
So it would be
Okay.
whatever is in state statute.
Okay, so, but there is something like that, so, all right, I'm just trying to get some information to try to put something together.
What about a moratorium until the state gets this thing figured out? Can we have a moratorium for a year or two, or is that kind of defeating the purpose, or?
What I'm seeing for moratoriums, it's more on the sale of it, so that municipalities have the opportunity to do the research, see what effect it would have on businesses. There's always, you know, some cities, but I'm not aware of any that have done a moratorium on the use of it on public property.
So it's either a prohibition or open season or whatever.
Everything that I'm seeing on the league's listserv is the moratoriums, like I said, are focused towards the sale of it. Yep, there's valid points on both sides of, you know, of the issue.
I feel like we should have something in place. Not saying that this is gonna be the end all of the ordinance, you know, might need tweaking as we go on, that's for sure. But I think it's a start.
I think possibly taking out the portion of the right-of-way, because that's such a variable throughout the community, that if we took that out of the equation and maybe just left it to the traveled portion of the roadways, that would at least help the police out a little bit. They are not trying to figure out, is the right-of-way 10 feet here, 15, what is it? At least remove that portion of it.
Right.
And we, you know, like most ordinance, we will not get it 100% this first time. There will be time, we'll have to come back at, I would assume, at some time down the road and adjust, but.
Yeah, I think too, what Councilman Palava touched on, so in the parks, we allow smoking and alcohol, but now we're gonna say not can't.
Yeah, absolutely, like in the staff report and at the August 10th meeting. So you've got 4 people around a picnic table, one smoking it, that's not good, but you can do edibles, you can do gummies, you can vape. Yeah, it's, you know, is it 3-2 and regular beer, is it beer and hard liquor? You know, I think at the end of the day, the effect is the same.
I think we're also, you know, looking at it from the, like, worst-case scenario that, you know, it's just, I mean, it's already been legal for a month, and have we had much for issues, complaints, you know, anything about it? You know, I've been traveling a lot all over the country lately, and, you know, it's been disruptive, but it hasn't been a problem. And I think part of it is we're thinking of a bunch of teenagers sitting around getting high. Well, you gotta be 21 to do this anyways, so we have you know, there's a whole bunch of laws in place already. You can't be doing it when you're operating a motor vehicle. It's really narrowed down. It's taking a lot of the guesswork out of it for us for some of these things that we're assuming are gonna be.
Right.
You know, everyone's thinking, you know, the teenage stoner idea, you know, I don't think that's necessarily gonna be the case.
I mean, I think he touched on it, I think it's gonna be a work in progress, you know, just what's our starting point? So if we don't do anything, it's anywhere, basically,
Correct.
is what you're saying. And you're saying confine it to the roadway, Cindy, is that kind of what you're?
That would be my,
Or off the roadway.
off,
Right.
or off,
Off,
yeah.
yeah.
Active portion of the right of way.
Yeah, remove the right-of-way portion of this narrative.
Just in the active portion of the right
And then
of
what
way.
would you do with the parks?
I feel it should be, as written in here. It is a mind-altering, substance. You know, if enough smoke is ingested from the kids, or, I don't know. I don't know what the effects on them are.
Do we,
I don't know that.
do we put a perimeter from those under 21?
Right, then if that's again, police, and how do we enforce that, you know?
I know. And then, you know, what do you do? You're sitting there minding your own business, and some people come over, and you have to get up and move.
Exactly. Right. I feel in the parks and our public places that we can control, you know, this doesn't reach out into any private property and into, however the rentals are set up, that's, you know, between the tenants and the owners of that building. I think it's a little bit forgiving ordinance already.
I mean, at least if the state has everything in place, it sure would be helpful to.
The other thing too, we could make just something, and then all of a sudden they come down with what the rule needs to be, and
It's done, yeah,
overrides
it's
us.
done, yeah.
I don't know, if you want to prohibit it from parks or not?
I personally do.
You're looking at parks and travel
Travel portion of the right of way.
right away. Does that including sidewalks and trails then? Is that,
I would think, yeah. Yep. That's the way I would read that. I don't know if that's something that you wanna have a revision and bring back, or.
As far as removing the, what do you want to call it, the abutting boulevard? So it would be A&C City right-of-way consisting of only the traveled portion.
Yep.
And I certainly could bring back a clean version based off of discussion tonight.
I think we should, honestly.
I mean, either way, like you said, it could be modified at a later date. I wish it was one big uniform.
Right.
Like the alcohol laws or whatever, at least you know what you got. That might be a good starting point.
Or do we allow it on the trails, being that people aren't when they're on the trail, they're
They're not
moving, they're
congregating.
going from one point to the next.
they're-
Versus in the park, they're kind of, you know,
There's trails through
stationary.
neighborhoods and, you know,
True enough.
Trails, I mean, it's all goes through neighborhoods.
Good point.
That's not to say that you don't like your neighbors, so you're gonna stand on the trail right next to it.
Well, or stand in your own
You know what I
yard.
mean, right?
Yeah.
I just, you know, there's so many different things that you have to kind of think of.
We will not think of every
No.
instance in
So,
this.
for example, on the trails, can you walk the trails with a can of beer? Is that allowed?
I mean, isn't that drinking in public, or?
I don't believe Minnesota has a public intoxication.
I guess I would say you could. I guess that'd be a question for the chief. I might know the specifics of the
You are
statute.
allowed.
Okay.
Now, if you're stumbling and falling over and
Right.
vulgar language, that's
Well,
probably.
drunk and disorderly.
I'm
Another.
just looking at continuity.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, allow the trails and.
I guess I'm flexible,
Yeah,
you know.
I am too.
Kevin brings up a good point that, yes, a lot of trails go through people's
Right.
backyards. You know, it may not be any different than someone standing in their yard smoking versus someone on the trail smoking.
Right.
So this one's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I say, especially since it's so loose.
It's,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
there's not a lot of guidance.
there's a little bit of difference with the alcohol. I know that it's a mind-altering substance as well, but it's just you know, it doesn't have a
Like the smoke.
smell that's
Yeah, that's a good
carrying,
point.
you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'd like to see the trail stay in it and, you know, you're right away in your yard. I mean, that's your whole yard. You take care of it. I mean, it's,
True.
that to me doesn't,
Right. Well, we can start with that, and then like I say, maybe modify it. Parks and trails and travel. Is that what we're
I
saying?
think so. I think we're good with that for now, anyway.
Yeah, do we need to include the term sidewalk with, you know, sidewalk and trail, or for definition?
I was.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure,
I would
if we
assume
said
so.
trail, somebody would say, well, this isn't a trail, this is a sidewalk, and
Right.
then we are, okay.
So I can definitely bring back a clean version based off of discussion tonight.
So do you,
So-
you would just wanna table this item then, and you bring, or do you want it,
You could table it, sure.
and then you bring back a clean item for the
Yep.
next?
So just for clarification, we're looking at, for the right-of-way, the road only, travel portion of curb to curb, or edge of pavement to edge of pavement, or something like that. Not in the parks or trails,
or sidewalk.
sidewalks, pathways,
Yep.
whatever.
Yes.
What was that?
Most are not, I'm not aware of any sidewalks on private property.
Well, I mean, that allows a lot of places to smoke.
Well, I guess,
You don't have
yeah,
to,
right.
you don't have to
I
go
guess
to.
what about businesses? Cause if somebody has a business and that, like up on Main Street, you guys are saying the sidewalks, does that mean that the owner can't stand on in front of his business and smoke?
Based off of the discussion, that is correct.
What's the difference between
We're
that?
not gonna, we're not gonna,
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that. Well, thank you, thanks for your comments.
I move we table this and, work on that red line version and bring it back to our next meeting.
Motion by Councilman Padada,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consider approval of ordinance 2023-319, an ordinance authorizing background checks for applicants for city employment. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Well, the public hearing for this ordinance was held earlier in the meeting. In order for the Lonsdale Police Department to access the BCA's computerized system for non-criminal purposes and to conduct much more thorough background investigations than are currently done, the ordinance needs to be adopted, as was stated during the public hearing. And then just the information that was provided at the last meeting is included in the remainder of the packet. There was one change as far as who gets access to the information. And in speaking with the chief on this, they have to retain the information and can only provide specified people with a summary of the results. Those that would be given access to the summary of results would be myself, the council, and the hiring authority, so the HR committee. So, but unless there's any questions, staff would recommend approval of ordinance 2023-319.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Padada,
Second?
second by Councilperson Pierre. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval of ordinance 2023-320, an ordinance amending city code, excuse me, statute 153.040 zoning, HB1 limited business. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Salon 146, currently located at 146 Main Street North, applied for a building permit to complete a remodel. Upon reviewing the permit, staff realized it was not for the current location, rather 102 Fifth Avenue Northwest, also known as the Cohinka Building. Staff contacted them, told them that the building was Zone B1, personal services, which includes services such as but not limited to laundromats, barbershop, salon, photography studios, are not permitted or conditional uses, and they would not be able to conduct the business at that location, or they need to apply for an ordinance amendment. We reviewed the process for an ordinance amendment. They elected to do so. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Myself, the building inspector, Salon 146, and the owner of 102 Fifth Avenue Northwest to review the request and process. Again, they chose to go through the process to amend the B1 district. The Planning Commission held the public hearing for this at their August 21st meeting. There was, I don't want to, I guess, steal all their thunder. So the request. All right.
You did good before.
So at the public hearing, Salon 146 said that they've owned the business since 2015 and have outgrown their space, and they would like to expand to the new location to allow for more stylists, wellness services such as kind of a spa, massages. Jeez. And they would also like to stay in Lonsdale. The applicants asked if they were going to use the entire building. They said yep. The only comment that I received or question prior to the public hearing was from the American Legion. They asked how it was going to affect their property. I said it's not. They said, sounds good, see you later. And that we won't be at the meeting. Another question that was brought up at the public hearing, or maybe during discussion, was what type of services would be allowed. And again, those services would be barbershop, salon, spas, or other similar uses. Based on the information contained in their application and staff report and discussion held at the public hearing, the consensus of the Planning Commission was to recommend approval of the request to the City Council. So the request was to amend the definition of retail shops and services to include specifically barbershops, salons, and spas, remove retail shops from the list of conditional uses, and add personal services and retail shops to the list of permitted uses. As I said earlier, the property is zoned B1. The location is essentially across Highway 19 from here, 102 Fifth Avenue Northwest. As far as a recommendation and options, in discussions with Salon 46, the recommendation is to keep the definitions of retail shops and personal services consistent and separate, so we're consistent with other zoning districts that have those same definitions. And then to add personal services and retail shops to the list of permitted uses. Options available would be to not approve the request, approve the request as proposed, approve the request as modified by staff, which has the same end result of allowing retail and personal services as permitted uses. And approve the request only to allow personal services as permitted uses, and then keep retail as a conditional use. The last time the B1 zoning district was modified was to make the permitted and conditional uses consistent with those at that time. At that time, the building at 102 Fifth Avenue Northwest was used by more professional businesses. The chamber had been in there previously, realtor, the News Review was in there, attorney. In addition, the intent was to have retail and personal services located downtown, because there was vacant buildings down there, still down there at this time. Some of the businesses that are included in the B1 would, it's basically everything on Fifth Avenue Northwest and kind of Railway Street. J&L Concrete, Tim Small Engine, White's Funeral Home, the Car Wash, the Cohinka Building, Lonsdale Family Dental, Whistle Stop Post Office, American Legion. Again, based off of the request, kind of the history of this area, the existing uses and what's proposed, the request does seem reasonable. And staff would recommend approval of ordinance 2023-320.
Plans or anything, concerns at all?
No concerns. There was, actually, one resident was here thinking the whole ordinance, or the whole zoning district was going to get reworked. Once he had seen that it was just gonna have a couple, uses added to it, he was all fine with that. Otherwise, there was no other comment.
How many parking spaces are on that lot?
Are you asking us, Cindy?
Whoever could answer it.
They are not, there are no parking spaces.
Delineated.
Yes, right now, there's no
Okay.
markings for parking spaces currently.
There is, guidelines and regulations for that, for each one. So
Right.
to get taken care of.
I would say 12 for
Let's
one.
see here. Yeah, I'm just gonna,
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
the width of their parking lot, east to west, is about 120 feet. So, at least 12, well, probably 10 when you take into account maybe access to the stairway, handicap or two. So the total parking spots, at least, would be on the north side of the parking lot, probably be around 10.
Okay.
And then the width of that ranges, I don't know, the average is probably 30 feet.
Okay.
So you probably could get a few parking spots on that
On
southeast.
the southern edge,
Mhm.
okay.
I mean, it's good to see a business expanding,
Absolutely.
obviously, especially in
Mhm.
town. I think it's good.
There's no other questions or comments. I move we approve ordinance 2023-320.
Motion by Councilman Canada.
Second.
Second?
Second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, consider approval of resolution 2023-26, a resolution accepting a bid for the city of Lonsdale's public building / structure roof replacement project.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Well, everyone remembers the hailstorm of June of '21. We had 21 roofs damaged, kind of throughout town on our buildings. We bid it out earlier this year and rejected those bids. We re-advertised it, and we received 11 bids up to the bid opening at 10 a.m. on August 18th. ACCM Inc. is the low bid at $198,700, and they ranged from there up to $691,550. Staff has coordinated with our insurance company. They've given us the approval to move forward with the bid submitted by ACCM. I did speak to the owner several times and confirmed that everything was included in his bid, given his bid of less than 200. I think the next closest was 240. So close, but certainly not as close as 691,550. He's told me that he is confident in his bid, and upon approval and entering into a contract, they would probably start with the asphalt shingles and work on the metal roofs as long as they could, weather permitting, and wrap up by June 1st or June 30th of 24, so. ACCM has done work for us in the past. And I guess it's, from what I've seen, been quality, acceptable work, so. I guess unless there's any questions, staff would recommend approval of Resolution 2023-26.
Not to get too sideways with it, but the pump house, the #1 pump house down on Idaho, that's a gray metal roof. Is that one of them that's being replaced?
Well, 4.
Or is that well 4?
Yep.
Okay.
I believe, well, the well house and the treatment plant.
The treatment plant, okay. Are we going to change the color so the well house is consistent with the rest of the building there? Because that one's gray and all the rest of the buildings tend to be brown. So I didn't know if we were gonna, try to make that building match the rest of them. Just thought.
Makes sense.
I mean, the structure, the building itself is similar color to the water plant, but it's got the gray roof and soffits and stuff and gray doors, and the building right next to it, is all brown, is brown,
Right.
so brown, so.
I think we talked as well about the grandstand, I believe, was included on that. That's a different color as well.
Okay. I just thought the two buildings next to each other should at least try to match.
And it goes back with the same materials on the metal roofs, right? The standing seam, not like a different.
Correct, it's a
Yep.
standing seam, and it even specified the thickness of the metal.
Okay.
I can't remember what the gauge was or how many millimeters, but yes, all that was specified for each of the locations.
Such a range. That's like kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Did the insurance company give a rough estimate of what they thought this would be worth?
They didn't, but from the beginning, we knew it was gonna be over the $175,000 for the competitive bid law.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, there was also damage to our clarifiers, and that would have, he said he's done a couple of those recently, and those alone would have been almost to the high bid, just
Sure.
those alone. So,
I move we approve Resolution 2023-26.
Motion by Councilperson Pierre,
Second.
second by Councilman Kadar. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval to reschedule the September 14th, 2023 City Council meeting to Monday, September 18th, 2023 at 7 p.m.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Staff's been asked to see if we can reschedule. As the mayor said, our next council meeting on September 14th to Monday, September 18th at 7. We do, or will have a couple items on that agenda. Presentation of the 2024 street project feasibility study, and we'll also be presenting bids for the concrete work at the Public Works new shop or storage facility. So basically just looking to see if that would work. If not, we look at a different date to conduct that meeting. The September 18th is Park Board scheduled and Planning Commission. I do anticipate having a Park Board meeting, but as of now, even typing the minutes from the last Planning Commission meeting, there was nothing, I don't have any agenda items. Really, I was only gonna have a meeting because Corey will be here for a week, but if we gotta get the schedule and the feasibility and all the improvement hearings and bidding and keep on track with that concrete work as well, so.
Works for me.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second.
second by Councilperson Pierre. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval to accept Eric Williams' letter of resignation as part-time liquor store clerk and authorize staff to advertise the position. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Well, Eric Williams has submitted his letter of resignation as part-time liquor store clerk with Piper Nelson submitting her resignation as well. Her hours were kind of assumed by the current staff, but these hours would not be able to be assumed by other staff. So staff is recommending that his letter of resignation be accepted, and then staff be authorized to advertise the position. The only change in speaking with the liquor store manager since this went out, in addition to every other Thursday, it would also be every other Friday. So that change has been made and will be posted as such if approved.
I'll make a motion to accept the letter of resignation.
Motion by Councilman Calava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Peter. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval to authorize staff to advertise for a full-time police officer. Casey Schmidt, Chief of Police. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. At the August 14th budget meeting, it was discussed to add another full-time officer and not go with part-time. Currently, we budget approximately 1,040 hours for part-time officers to cover vacation, sick time, and as a second officer on Saturday. With a number of open full-time police officer positions across the state, finding an applicant to cover or to fill that part-time position may be a challenge. And I don't know if we'd find an applicant for that. I find it maybe even a challenge to find a full-time position. Because I think currently there's roughly probably 1,000 open positions across the state, so it's a struggle. Funding, the city of Lonsdale is to receive roughly $200,000 for public safety, which could be used to make up the difference from what is spent for a part-time officer to a full-time officer. That difference would be approximately $45,000 to $50,000, depending on the starting wage or lateral entry if the applicant comes with experience. At this time, I have no part-time officers interested in the full-time position. So it would be my recommendation to advertise for a full-time police officer at $31.65, which is step 2 for the 2024 salary scale. For an applicant with experience, $33.37 to $35.91, depending on experience. Those wages are between step 3 and 5 of the salary scale. The other option would be not to advertise for full-time, but advertise for a part-time position.
I do think we need a full-time position. I think we're at that stage.
Agree with that?
And will we advertise for the full-time position as the pay scale, as Mr. Schmidt says, is recommended?
Motion by Councilman Cadava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Peter. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Consider approval to end a leave of absence and reinstate Kevin Wildenberg as firefighter. Joe Pumper, Fire Chief. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Rudd. Thank you, members of the council. Currently, Kevin Wildenberg had sought a leave of absence in February this year, requesting for a year of off-duty service. And he has submitted a request to come back to active duty with only serving out 6 months of his requested time of his absence. So I'd appreciate if you would accept his approval or accept his request to come back to active duty.
So move.
Motion by Councilman Cadava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Peter. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval to accept Mark Minor's letter of resignation as firefighter.
Yes, last year, as of September, Mark Minor had requested a leave of absence. Throughout his leave of absence, he was trying to secure permanent housing in Lonsdale. Was unsuccessful and stayed closer to Northfield, and has since now we've served out his term of absence. He has applied for Northfield Fire and has gotten on to Northfield Fire. So he will not be returning to Lonsdale.
Motion to accept Mark Minor's letter of resignation.
Motion by Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Pierre. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Consider approval to make a conditional job offer to Brian Zeismer as firefighter.
Yeah, so, I'll give you the back history here on all the candidates. But I'll give you our procedures first here. Lonsdale Fire had received 12 applications for the future fire positions. Out of those 12, we had 8 viable candidates. Interview committee was assembled, consisting of Harry Danielson, Adam Weisseidel, Lee Piarkey, and Mike Etzer. They conducted the 8 interviews Tuesday, August 8th, and have recommended to me that Brian Zeismer, Alan Schmitz, Jacob Kern, Casey Kyer, and Christopher Hoy be offered conditional positions on the department. They have passed our current background check. Upon acceptance of a conditional position, these 5 would go through the NFPA OSHA physical to determine their final status. These items would be conducted through Lonsdale Family Medical Clinic. And upon successful completion of the background check of the physical, they would be probationary members starting training at the end of this month or next month, September. In addition, they would be regular firefighter. They'd be learning regular firefighter duties, equipment procedure, and run protocols, and finalizing their training by the end of next year's first quarter. So again, I ask that you approve Brian, Alan, Jacob, Casey, and Christopher Hoy, conditional job offers for the Lonsdale Fire Department, and I would expect they'd be introduced in the membership meeting, and beginning their official duties in September here. And now we can go through them individually if you want.
Okay. Brian Zeismer,
So moved.
Councilperson Pierre,
Second.
Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consider approval to make a conditional job offer to Alan Schmitz as firefighter.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Ferrara,
Second?
second by Councilperson Pierre. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Consider approval to make a conditional job offer to Jacob Kern as firefighter.
So moved.
Councilman Palava,
Second?
second by Councilperson Pierre. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approval to make a conditional job offer to Casey Kyer as firefighter.
So moved.
Motion by Councilperson Pierre,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consider approval to make a conditional job offer to Christopher Hoy as firefighter.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Tarada,
Second?
second by Councilperson Pierre. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There you go, chief.
Thank you very much.
Question for you, Chief. Does this put you at 30 then?
It will not yet. We
Okay.
will be at 28
Okay.
as of right now.
With Mark
As of
resigning?
tomorrow, yep.
Okay.
So would you be using any of those candidates that were in this last round of advertisement?
Yes,
To
so,
possibly-
just to bring you up to date, we still did hold, part of the reason for only going with 5 out of all the candidates that we had is one, that we don't wanna overwhelm the system as far as putting in a bunch of new guys and all at once. So, 4 to 5 was my recommendation, when we originally went into the interview process, because they assimilate well. I plan on having, or starting again, another hiring process again next year. We did hold over the other 4 candidates from this last hiring. I did let them know that we had, more or fewer positions than candidates, and they understood that, and they all appreciated our being upfront and letting them know that they would at least be able to have the opportunity to apply again. Since then, even we've also received a few more applications too, so broadening the pool again of applications come next year. So I think it will be successful by at least, I always like to have more than one person go to class. Because you always work in buddies, you always work in pairs with the fire department, so we want to continue that tradition.
Maybe you're not, are you surprised you have so many applicants?
No.
Over the years, it's been kind of tough.
I was pretty happy with what we got for applications as well. Right out of the gate, there was 2 that were dismissed. One moved out of the area, the other one thought it was a full-time position, where this is a volunteer fire department. However, with that being said, in years past, the money we spent was always about $100 per application is what it came down to, and again, the money we spent this year still reflected that also. So yeah, I was excited. I mean, I would imagine to get more than 12 applications, I think would be difficult to do in this day and age anymore. But I was very happy with that. I feel that was a very successful campaign. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the planned agenda. On to department reports. Mr. Dornfeld.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Been working on getting a budget finalized here for these upcoming budget meetings. Public Works has been doing catch basin repairs in Willow Creek Heights. We got to demo a cat skid loader today and yesterday.
Ooh, nice.
And they were so generous as to include a tar mill attachment on it. So we took full advantage, and
What size?
it was an 18-inch.
Don't break it.
What size? What size?
Oh, the machine?
With tractor wheel?
It's a 74 horse machine. I don't remember the model number of it.
Tractor
It's a
wheel.
wheel machine. The consensus from the crew was 6 versus 1, and me being the one that likes the foot controls, they all like the cat
You like
controls.
it.
I
Come on,
like-
Joe. 21st century here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I lost out on that one, but very nice machine. Like I said, we took full advantage of getting these catch basins. The fronts get all kind of wonky, so we making sure the water goes where it needs to go.
Must be like a 246 or 262.
I think it was a 262. It's a 74 horse. I know that. It's the largest you can get without having to have DEF fluid on it. Very nice machine, but that was very generous of them.
0% financing.
We haven't gotten to that discussion yet.
Pump the brakes here.
Receiving bids for the concrete floor today for the storage building. I'm working on the process to get electric and gas in the building, contacting CenterPoint Energy and Excel Energy. It's quite a process. So just making sure that everything can go step by step and keep this ball rolling. We also did manhole repairs. Last year we did 8 to 10 where we cut out the manholes, pulled the rings out, adjusted them back to where they have to go. We completed what we budgeted for this year. It worked amazing last year, so we're hoping the same. It's just, we don't like putting the gravel in them in the winter when the street lifts up, and it worked really
You did a
good.
nice job in the Willow Creek area over there.
Yeah, they look really good. I had the concrete cutter come and give me a bid for getting our sidewalks in compliance. We did the sidewalk survey. We have some budgeted funds. I have to talk to him and kind of narrow out some that he included that I don't think we need to do. The jetting is completed for 2023. We had a meeting this week with Joel and Shabani about the Area 3 feasibility study. County Road 4, we had a little issue with the check valve. We needed to mess with the weight on it. Everything's good. Sewer passed. We're fully operational. And we switched the banners to the welcome banners. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. Flowers are looking good. City's looking good.
Thank you for your good work. Really
Absolutely.
Good job there, man. Thanks. Shabani, anything to you?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Just a quick update, you know, our projects, our trail project, Stika Skate Park and the Mill and Overlay project has been complete for a few weeks here, or months. We're working with the contractor on the restoration areas along the trail project in Stika Park. We're not getting grass growth, it's weeds. We're in a drought. So we've scheduled some meetings to discuss that with them to understand how they're going to get grass growth. For now, I think in the interim, they needed to temporarily stabilize those areas as well. And then also just working with staff on the 2021 projects, warranty punch lists items, and reaching out to those contractors as well. And then as Joe had mentioned, we did meet regarding the 2024 project feasibility report, which we'll present to council at the September 18th council meeting. And then the public hearing is proposed for October 12th. And that's all I had.
So, Casafo, is it open or not open, or I see it's somewhat striped, or I don't know what that means.
Temporary striping was completed, was it yesterday or Tuesday? I think it was yesterday.
We met yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday was completed. Joel and I met with them at our weekly progress meeting, and what I gathered was the county did not want to open it fully until the 9th.
That's when the substantial completion date got extended to, so I believe it's gonna be that Monday.
I think
I
so.
guess just one
That
head
would
of
be
this
open.
question, I see it says open to some businesses. So is it, I mean, can people travel on it, are they gonna get a ticket?
You cannot, there's barricades at 8th Avenue and also at
But
Idaho Street.
right now, they're fully accept, the barricades are there, but they're passable.
Right, you know,
Except
that's
right
my
over
question,
here.
people are going around. but-
Except right across here.
Oh, right across here, but Eighth
Yep.
has been passable this whole project though.
8th has been open the entire
Yeah,
project.
so traffic's been going down 4 and turning onto Eighth on either side.
They've had the access for the businesses and fire.
So the real question is, can Cindy use it from her house and come down
I
to City
haven't,
Hall?
I haven't.
So can she do that? Nobody
I
else
think
is.
you'd have-
Probably from the lower parking lot.
Okay, that's all.
Let's go cross country, that's okay.
Have to ask Chief Schmitz.
Everybody watches, I'm leaving now, so I'm on the right way home.
Make sure
I'll just walk.
Jason leaves first.
You tie him up, I'll leave.
Thank you. Mr. Erickson?
A few things. Continue working on the 24 budget. With the special election in November, working with our vendor on the ballots and getting everything taken care of for that. In addition to the city special election, New Prague School District will be having a question for referendum for their residents. Advisory board meetings the last couple weeks, working with the building inspector on building permits. We just touched base on County Road 4 and the 24 feasibility study. Booster station was talked about. Met with the business here in town, virtually with them and Deed last week about funding for an expansion. So based off of the information that business provided, Deed did provide them a financing proposal. I wasn't involved in their second conversation, so I'm not sure what happened there. But at this point, it's really in the business's court to make a decision on how they want to proceed and if they want to accept the terms provided by the state. let's see, in regards to the EDA, we'll be having a interview with Smith on our Rev application that we submitted. Made it to the third and final round, which is in-person interview, so that is happening, I believe, 2:30 on the 5th. I believe the 7th, the video crew will be in town to take drone footage in the business park and some other areas of town for next year's marketing video.
How many acres are left?
Well, we have 12.6, probably 25 acres maybe.
How many are for sale, 12.6?
Well, ours is for sale, and I assume the property south of Commerce would be for sale too, so. We own 12.6, and I think there's a total of about 25 out there now. I actually did have a business, a different business than I was talking about earlier, reach out, and we had a conversation on land in the business park today as well, so be providing us some information on pricing and lot size, things like that, so.
Good.
See what can happen.
Thank you for all your work, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Hopefully get back to full staff here shortly, and
Yeah, and Corey is starting September 11th, so he had to give a 30-day notice from his current employer.
Pretty good.
Mr. Kadada.
Planning and zoning met a couple weeks ago. A couple things we had on the agenda was the zoning request that we heard earlier tonight. And we did see the design of the roundabout proposed on Highway 19 and County Road 2 over here. There's a full turn lanes that can be accessible from in and out on every leg. It looks very nice, and hope we get it done.
26, 25.
Yeah. That's all we had on our agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Councilperson Carroll?
The EDA met on the 17th. We went over our the Rev application, which, as Joel mentioned, we got moved into the third round, so that will be coming up. We also updated our budget, we covered that, and then we are planning a lunch and learn for in September. And also we had the TCU Titans Pathway Program presented to us.
Good. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Councilman Palava.
I have no updates. Cindy covered everything at the EDA.
Okay, I don't have too much other than, if you take a minute and look what has happened in our community this past summer with the Fox 9 Town Hall, Community Days, and festivals, and Paper Sunday. We're really pretty blessed to have a town like we have here compared to a lot of other communities. I don't know if everybody appreciates it that much, but they certainly do. And I think you certainly contribute to staff and city council and, of course, the residents and volunteers that live here. It's a pretty remarkable place to live and raise a family. With that said, we'll end on a good note tonight.
We adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Kadada,
Second.
second by Councilman Palava. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?